Welcome everyone to the Mashpee Public Schools Joint Student Advisory Committee School Committee meeting of December 6, 2023. And our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who live here and have been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. All right, our next item is to ratify the agenda of December 6th, which includes the approval. Actually, we're going to be moving the approval of the minutes if there's no objections to that, because we don't have quorum for that meeting to approve them, so that will be postponed till our our December 20th meeting, which then means we'll be going over possible change in date of January 31st, 2024 School Committee Student Advisory Committee meeting, discussion of the school year 23-24 school choice program for grades 9 through 12, follow up on any agenda items from 10, 11, 20 from our joint meeting of October 11th. We're going to discuss the principal search timeline for MMHS. We are then going to talk about MMHS course program offerings and December student input survey, review the FY25 budget and summary for that was submitted to the Mashpee Enterprise. We are going to review and vote on the school year 24-25 calendar. We also have a vote on food service function pay, which was an agenda item from November 15th. We also have approval of an out-of-state field trip for the Mashpee Middle High School for the annual DC Travelers. And then items not known in advance to the chair. And then we will be adjourning and moving into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining and to reconvene an open session.
Madam Chair, a question in regard to which of the items on item 6, which refers to page 4, which items are specifically being followed up on? I don't know all items.
I believe we're going to get some possible feedback on how the creation of that handbook and the goals were going, correct? As well as any share outs from their MASR events that may have been attended by any of the student representatives. I believe those were the main items that were going to be discussed, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the agenda? So I will entertain a motion to ratify.
Madam Chair, I will make a motion to ratify our agenda with the changes requested.
Thank you, Dan, and I'll take a second.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I also am a yes. Thank you. All right, we've moved that one. So, possible change in date of January 31st, 2024 School Committee Student Advisory Committee meeting. The suggested change would be to move to January 24th from 5 to 6 p.m. And I will open that up to all sitting at this table if that works for all of you, because the more the merrier of these fun little shindigs.
I mean, it works for me. I don't have any objections.
Okay.
How about any other members?
That works.
Yeah.
Just any objections from the committee?
Our slow moving phone.
Okay. Okie doke. Then, for Dan. Well, yeah, because if there's 3 of us at least.
Yeah.
So just a quick
Sorry.
No, I was going to say I would move to move it.
Okay.
And it's pending. I need to confirm schedule.
Okay. John, what were you going to?
just a question. So we're moving it from 5 to 6 versus 5:30 to 6:30?
That is a good question. So we're also moving the time up by half an hour?
Oh, to 5. Does that work for everybody?
That works for everyone as well?
that might be a problem for me.
It'll be a tight squeeze for me as well.
Why don't we leave it at the normal time?
Is it possible to leave it at 5:30?
Yeah, I'm fine with leaving it at the normal time. I don't
Does
think
that
we-
work for all of
You don't have any
Yeah.
problem with that?
Okay,
Let's leave it at 5:30.
so we'll be moving it. So Dan,
Perfect.
you want to amend your your motion wasn't seconded, but do you want to amend it?
Yeah, I
Or make a new
will
one?
amend my motion to move the date to the 24th with the alteration of time to continue to reflect 5:30 to 6:30.
Okay. Second,
Second,
thank you. Any further discussion? All right, Dan,
Yes.
Don,
yes,
Matt?
Yes.
And I also am a yes, so that is now moved. All right. Next, we have a discussion of the school year 23-24 school choice program for grades 9 through 12 and a vote should we choose to make one. This came about last year. We discussed school choice seating in Mashpee Middle High School, specifically grades 9 through 12. And at the time, the recommendation of the superintendent was to not have any school choice seats for those grades. I know there were some concerns expressed by myself, and I believe there may have been one or two other members who had questions about not having seats at those grade levels. But we have had quite a few people throughout those 4 grade levels looking for seating. So the thought was to kind of bring it back to the committee to possibly reconsider whether or not we would like to open school choice up to grades 9 through 12. And what that, how many seats would we like to open it to, and if we do open it, how many we would like to open it to. The discussion last time, if I recall correctly, concerns were about level of services provided and whether or not we would be able to maintain the level of services provided. Should we allow school choice for grades 9 through 12? However, that might not necessarily be as big a concern since the numbers we saw that came in might not have been as big as anticipated initially. We don't have that full list, right? I mean,
Yeah, Mrs. Minnetsky, I don't think I put that list in here in terms of,
that's fine. So I guess I'll open the discussion first to our student advisory council, or Dawn, I'm sorry, you have.
well, I have a question first,
Okay.
because just from a technical standpoint, because are we able to open it up? Because I didn't believe that we could do that after the school year started. So
I
we
mean,
need
I
advice
think
on that.
you have to be, I'm not sure, I would have to double check with our attorney, but I believe if you were to do it, you have to have a set window and advertisement and make sure that anyone wanting to know.
I didn't think you could.
I didn't either, only from my previous district, but I think that's a question for the
Right.
attorney to verify.
So I would suggest that we refer this to legal counsel to get clarification before we spend time having a discussion that may not even be relevant. Madam Chair.
Fair enough. Any other thoughts on that? Anyone?
I just have a question. That's for this year, correct?
Yes.
We were considering it for this year, but to Dawn's point, if we have that discussion now versus maybe our next meeting to get your input, I am curious what your thoughts on it as students in those grades. I would like to hear your side as well, but to Dawn's point, spending that time now when we have some very large unknowns facing us.
I agree. I was just.
I mean, I would suggest that if you want, it would be appropriate to get input in regard to the following year and what their thoughts are as we formulate that. And that could be done at the next meeting, because I don't recall when we vote on that, but it's sometime in the,
I believe it was like April.
February.
Yeah, you only have to vote if you were leaving the school choice
Right, you
program.
consider it in
right,
March,
but
I think.
we set what the parameters are, and
Yeah,
that's really
yeah.
what we're talking about. So we've got some time to have that conversation in a subsequent meeting, but I think let's let's clarify whether it's possible, because like I said, my understanding was it had to be set early on and you couldn't change that.
Fair enough.
Can I just ask a clarifying question about the proposal? You said 9 to 12, is that what, because we haven't opened 11 and 12 in the time that I've ever been here, but we were considering all 4 grades?
We were considering
Okay.
all 4. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
And
Sorry.
I just wanted to add that many of our school choice students have been with Mashpee for many years, and because of changes in their, residence, they prefer to stay. And so I feel like we have had a few situations at the high school level, 9 through 12, where the family of a long-term Mashpee student has moved. So wherever this lands, I think we need to possibly message to those families if there's any alternative solutions they can seek, which is obviously coming to you for tuition waiver, in order for them to stay. And then when the next window opens, if there are, obviously that's only for this school year, there might be something there for them, but.
And just for your benefit, are you all familiar, you may or may not be familiar with school choice and how that works? Does
Yeah.
everyone have a basic
Kind of.
understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhat.
Okay. So then, that being said, I'll entertain a motion to refer this to our legal counsel to be discussed at a future meeting.
I'm not even sure.
I mean, you could potentially
Doesn't- well,
discuss
we
it at the 20th meeting.
Yeah, if we get an answer.
I just didn't know where we had it marked for a vote if we needed to.
Yeah,
No, you don't.
Okay.
seems like an odd one to vote.
All right.
That's a enabler and not a requirement.
Yeah.
Just trying to be procedural.
No, yes, no, you're doing the right things. Doing the right things.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
That's all good, thanks.
Oh, like, wow.
Okay, we got each other's back, it's good. Okay, so moving on, follow up on any agenda items from the October 11th, 23 school committee, from our first meeting, basically as a combined body here. So, Andrew, as chair, I will yield the floor to you.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that we want to just hear about the goals and stuff that we set, and like what we've been doing from there, and like, correct? Right. So we've been doing quite a bit. I haven't been able to be at as many meetings because I've been having some health issues, but I know everyone else here has been working hard to get stuff done. We've been working on a binder. It's a very tedious task of printing out all the documents we need, like our personal constitution and stuff like that, and just loading it up. So I have like this giant binder at home of everything, and we've been writing. Well, I've been writing. I don't know. I've been asking you guys too, but just guides and stuff on how these meetings are run, and just basically outlining a path for future years and even this year if anyone gets confused or wants to know. And I know personally, I don't know if you guys have had any experience, I know that I have been getting more recognized as someone on the school committee, so I feel like that was a big part. Right now it's mainly jokes and stuff, but I've been trying to get them to realize, I've been like, hey, if you do have any,
We gotta find that thing that like, you end up like having a voice in and like, then they're like, oh, wait, this actually like,
Andrew made this happen.
but overall a lot more people have been coming to us and stuff like that, and it's been sort of a process of me explaining to them what we do. So I've been thinking about sending out a newsletter, like how these meetings are bi-monthly, right?
The combined meetings, yes.
Yeah, bi-monthly newsletter of just what went on at these meetings and what we've been doing. So that's what we've been up to. I don't know if you guys have any comments to make. Okay.
You're welcome to.
Whatever anyone wants to share, we love to hear your thoughts on how it's been going. So if you have input on those goals, it sounds like you're making progress. And if there is anything that we can do to support you and help get that, let us know. I'm pretty sure all of our emails are wide open for any questions, comments, whatever you might want to ask about, know about.
Well, just a question, because you talked about creating really the reference binder, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't talk about the goals. Have you started work on that?
We have been working more on our goals. The binder was kind of to like create a living document. That was one of our goals. Our other goal was to accurately represent all student voices, and we've been doing that through outreach to different clubs and different demographics of people throughout the school. Just try and like see if we can get representatives from all those different areas. That's also been increasing our participation, which was one of our goals. More people have been coming to us and talking to us about, hey, this is what I've seen. And sometimes we have to be like, we can't really help you because we're more of the rules and like building aspects. We've tried to redirect people to the appropriate things, but it's been helping to get people out. One of the areas I say we could work on is creating relationships in the school-wide community. I know later in the year, we're going to be trying to have more meetups with people from Quashnet and KCC, just to try and get representatives from all the schools. So,
How often do you meet with how often are your meetings at the school?
we were meeting weekly, but now we meet bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly.
Yeah,
And
but
that's during the school day or after school?
it's after school. But sometimes we do meet up with just like between ourselves during the school day, like in homeroom, or we have directed study together to just talk about stuff if we need to.
Okay.
We started also we did a segment in the Mashpee Minute, which I think once I finish with the play, we'll get that back up and going. I haven't been able to make it, but yeah, I got to talk to Miss Frazier, and we just kind of introduced it to the Mashpee Minute. So once, probably after the winter break, we'll get that back going and get stuff from this meeting into there.
Cool. How about this side of the table?
They're a little shy.
Anything?
You just say what they said.
Yeah.
Did any of you happen to get to any of the virtual events or anything, just out of
I
curiosity?
don't think so.
No? Okay, just curious. Does anyone else have any other? Don, do you have any more questions, or anybody else?
No, it sounds to me like you guys are trying to make some progress moving forward, and anytime you're starting something brand new, there's a lot of monotonous work that you've got to do to collect things and create the process, and you're really laying the framework for the next generation of this. So I commend you for the work you've done, and I look forward to the exciting things. Hopefully maybe the next meeting you can talk our video people into showing your Mashpee Minutes segment, or encouraging the superintendent to share it out.
We can definitely do
Yeah.
that.
Well, I share it every Friday, Mr. Myers.
It is in the communication.
I do.
Video?
Yes,
Yeah.
well, there's a link. There's a link. Or you could subscribe to the YouTube channel and
Yes,
help get
do
their
that
numbers
to get
up
to
so that they
1,000.
can get to 1,000.
I did not get my, I'm already subscribed to that.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
I did not get my
Every
engraved
Friday.
invitation to it. So I
Oh,
usually
well,
it comes as a separate email.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Every
So,
Friday around
I know my-
5:30, my
Yes.
vibrates.
I know
I know it's
my Friday thing may go to your spouse, however, I also forward it
I
to
do,
the five of you.
I do see that.
And you all get it too, right?
I do share with kids, yeah.
Yes.
One thing I do want to share with you all is last month was the joint MASC-MASS committee, conference. And I sat in on a workshop about school committee chairs. It was like chair chat, they called it. And the conversation somehow got to the student advisory committees, which was really interesting because some people were like, yeah, we've got one, it's rocking and rolling, been going for years. And other people were like, wait, what? We need to have one of these? So
We were there.
The current president of MASC, who's also the vice chair of Revere's school committee, she's the one who actually kind of helped get some of the social media stuff. So if you ever had questions, there's other and you wanted to reach outside of us to other school districts, we can probably find out like which districts are really active. Like I know Cambridge is really active. There's a couple other districts that have really, like, so if you ever had questions about like what you're working on with that binder, school committees do know that there are groups like you out there and are trying to help make sure that you have the resources. So if you get stuck at a point, you can reach out to us and we can help facilitate that conversation. So just putting that on the table for all of you, that everybody was like, we love having our students. So I seconded that and was like, yes, we do. So awesome. Anything else you want to share?
I'd just like to say before we move on, if you ever need like to contact us, or if you're just even curious about like what we've been doing, just reach out to us. I don't know if you have my email, but I can get it to you.
I have
guys.
your school email,
Okay.
yeah.
But I know usually they're more talkative, but
It's okay. It's been a long day. I can appreciate it.
Maybe you could share too, like, at least for the next few months, a schedule of when the meeting is, because maybe there's an opportunity for one of us to pop in, or one of them, I should say.
Yeah.
Or me, but.
Definitely.
So, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just looking back here, I just realized when we took the vote to approve the minutes last time, we had student advisors also vote. So I do think you would have a quorum to be able to do that.
We didn't have them vote on the minutes.
You said we did. Or did we not? They should be voting on the minutes. It's a joint meeting.
Oh, yes. Shouldn't they? Okay. That's,
Oh, so they've never had opportunity.
they
to vote
ratified
on
the
minutes.
agenda.
Right.
Oh, and I did not allow you guys to vote on the agenda. I'm sorry. So we can, what is that? We reconsider the vote on ratifying the agenda. So I'll take a motion to reconsider the vote on ratifying the agenda. We'll start there.
I'll make that motion to reconsider the vote, yeah.
And someone second it, please.
I can second.
All right. Let's go back to ratify the agenda the right way. See, we're all still learning. Thank you, Dawn. All right. So any discussion? No? Okay. Paige.
Yes.
Silas.
Yes.
Marielle. Dan.
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Andrew.
yes.
Eve. And I also am a yes. Okay. So then now I guess we can take a vote on the minutes. So we'll revisit item 3 to vote approval of the minutes. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 11th, which was our joint meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay. Take a second.
I mean, I guess I can second that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. And so any further discussion on the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, I'll move to vote. Paige.
Yes.
Silas.
Yes.
Marielle.
Yes.
Dan.
I'll abstain.
Dawn.
Yes.
Matt.
Abstain?
Andrew.
Yes.
Eve.
Yes.
And I also am a yes. All right. Thank you for pointing that out to me.
All right. Did they also, they voted on the change of the date, correct?
See, this is,
Did they vote?
I think we need to look though at the rules of this because aren't there deliberative non-voting members? That's, so can they vote on the date change?
I believe they are non-voting.
Which is why,
For school committee, but this is a
This is
joint.
their-
okay, so I will entertain,
This is a joint meeting.
but it technically is a school committee meeting as well?
Well, there's certain things that they can't vote on, which are strictly school committee, but anything that's
Okay.
joint
Okay, fair enough.
should be, that's.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to reconsider the vote on the change of our next joint meeting.
Make a motion, we reconsider the vote on the change to the date of the next joint school committee, student advisory committee meeting to January 31st, 2024 at 5:30 to 6:30.
Moving from January 31st, not to.
Oh, from January 31st to January 24th.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Do we need to reflect once more in the vote the it says on the agenda 5 to 6, but we're changing back to 5:30.
He
to
did in
6:30.
his motion say
I
5:30.
changed it in the motion.
Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion. Paige?
Yes.
Silas?
Yes.
Marielle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Eve?
Yes.
I also am a yes. Okay, thank you, Dawn. Okey doke. That brings us to item 7, the MMH principal search timeline. So, as we all know, currently there is an interim principal at MMHS, Ms. McSweeney, who has been doing a lot of stuff in the short months that she has been working, but I think been doing a lot of things. But that leaves us needing to find one for a principal for next year. So, Superintendent DeBoer, do you want to?
So in your packet is the timeline of dates. The job description has been updated. I assume you can. We have already completed gathering some stakeholder input from our parents and guardians, our staff, and our students. And then also when we sent out those Google Forms, which was the Monday after Thanksgiving, we also sent a form to staff for anyone interested in being on the search and interview committee. And that has closed. And then this week on Monday, we sent it to the students. You just have to sort of write a little blip about why you want to be on the committee. And so that will be closing on Friday. Then we've started to look at the stakeholder input that we received from the parents, staff, and students in terms of the portrait of a Mashpee Middle High School principal. That will inform some of the questions that we decide to focus on when we actually do the survey. The job is being posted next Monday and will remain up until January 2nd, which is is that a Tuesday? When we come back, I think it's the Tuesday. And it'll be in multiple places. The committee listing there's 9 people on the committee. We do have a confirmation that Roxanne Mills Brown will be representing the tribe. And so we really just have to zero in on those 4. On some of the parent surveys, there was an indication of parents who said yes, they were interested. So we'll circle back with them to find a parent. And so then the rest of the timeline in January is when we review applications, schedule interviews. We have 2 interview nights, 3:30 to 7, January 10th, January 11th. Then the top 2 candidates that come out of that process will be invited to spend a significant amount of a day at Mashpee Middle High School, and that will include a second interview with our district-based leadership team, which includes Director of Special Education, Director of Finance, our 3 principals, myself and Dr. Hanscom. I think I got everybody in that group. Also, when they're here, we will set up a time when students can ask questions, and we will set up a time when staff can ask questions. And then, depending on the outcome there, we will do some reference checking, potentially site visits. Sometimes that doesn't always apply. And then by the 2nd of February, offer the position to the candidate. And it will be a July 1 start. So I guess looking at this and listening to myself, the only thing we didn't have was an opportunity when we have our 2 finalists here for some parents to come and ask questions. So maybe we can schedule the day in such a way that we can invite parents in for that. So
Even if it's a Zoom option, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
I have a
And what
question.
thoughts do you have?
Are you okay if we put some of this on our newsletter?
Yes, please do that.
Okay, because I was thinking I could put like that you're going to be able to, they're going to visit and you're going to be able to ask them
Yes.
questions and stuff. So I was going to put that on our thing.
Perfect.
That's good.
Yeah.
Anything that we discuss, just like going forward, what is discussed at this meeting, it's your job as the student advisory committee to then kind of relay that to the student body. So anything in these packets that you get, it's public record. You're able to say, hey, I think our classmates would like to know about this, which I'm sure you have many classmates who would be very interested in who the next principal becomes or is. So yeah, definitely share this. Remind them to do their surveys that they got. Make sure that they make I keep thinking of it, no offense, as a Mary Poppins wish list, like when Jane and Michael come downstairs with their little, like, she must be kind, like, which is very
Actually,
different.
that did come out from a lot of the narratives that students shared.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like in my head, I've got like little Jane and Michael Banks and
I'm
Mr.
singing
Banks.
the
It's a
song in
very
my head
different.
right
I
now.
can envision the song in my head. If I knew
Sorry.
it well enough, I would start singing.
Sorry, not sorry, but every time I think of that, that's.
I think a lot of the students sort of express this a hope for longevity, but when a few of them say they want someone who's young, I'm like, oh, what does that mean to them?
It's sort of illegal also for us.
Yeah, I know.
And then there's that.
I think they just generally want someone who's there for a while.
Which I can appreciate.
Yeah,
Do any of you have any thoughts on this timeline? Any questions or? Any questions from?
The only thing I had is, like, not telling you what to do with it, but like, sometimes some of the things we present comes off very formal or, you know, almost like legal. So like, if you guys can translate to something that, like, in a way that, like, you know, may draw the attention, because like, that might be a part of the, like, where, like, you know, it's kind of like a joke thing sometimes to people, but if like, you're able to maybe like take some of this and like put it in a different term or form of expression, so that, you know, people are like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of neat, I'm interested in this.
I agree, definitely.
Like, it doesn't have to be like a page long
Hire
thing.
your
Yeah.
bestie girly pop principal.
Yeah, yeah. Like, you know, but I'm just
Less
saying,
like to shop, no.
yeah, sometimes these page-long things are like, it's just like a sentence or a phrase, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Don't eat your
What
survey.
Yeah.
And you should have all had this shared electronically, and I don't know if it's on the website, but anyway, like the job description, that's a good thing for you to read too, if you're wondering kind of what the role entails, what we're looking for, that's in there as well.
I know I looked at this when I got the email the other day. I was like, oh, what's this? And I looked
Awesome.
at it and I was like, this seems like something my father would write.
Yeah. But yeah,
I take that
that's
as a
okay.
compliment.
But see, that's where you guys come in because you are
You like
students
translators.
and
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
can
translators.
take what we're doing at that high level and say, we're looking for Mary Poppins. No, that'd be kind of-
I
Yeah.
did have one more question.
Sure.
I'm terrible with dates, I'm sorry, but they're starting before the school year, right?
No.
And-
Oh, yes.
Well, July 1.
Well, July,
yeah,
yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
before the next
Yeah,
school year starts.
The
Yeah.
principals always work, if you care to know, 220 days.
Yeah,
You attend school for 180, so they do a lot
That's
of
what I
work in
know.
the summer.
I assume, because I definitely think it's important for principals to be more involved in the school, even when school's not in session. So I just want to make sure, and I'm terrible
Yes.
with dates, so
No, that's a
sorry
great
about that.
July 1, yes.
But that would be something to put in your wish list, like a principal who is engaged with the student body.
Yeah.
That pretty much came through.
That came across
most
answers to almost every
I'm
kid,
sure it did.
which is awesome.
And I want to put that on there.
So for
Good.
your edification, the school year from the school committee and administration perspective starts on July 1st and ends on June 30th.
Yeah.
So it's that mid-year convention versus you kind of think of the regular calendar. So that's why the new person would start on July 1st because that's really
Fiscal year
January
versus
1st
calendar year.
Yeah.
from your perspective. So that's the first day of the physical year. So you'll hear physical thrown out many times.
Fiscal versus calendar, that's really, the budget for that new salary starts July 1st, so.
So I had two.
Yes, please.
One, I appreciate that the portrait of the graduate number 2, item number 2, that you're going to send out a Google form and you've listed
Well, we did, yes.
parents, staff, students. There is one other constituency that may or may not get picked up if you do it that way, which is represented here at this table. So I would request that you also include the school committee. Send us a form, because like if you send a form, it's gonna go not to me.
Yeah.
Apparently to your spam, where her Friday emails go.
Yeah. But
You will be getting that either this evening or tomorrow morning.
I'll look for the gold plating on it.
Okay.
A little read
Did you have any
receipt.
questions, Dan?
I
I'm sorry, that's right, you
Yeah,
had a second
another
one, sorry, Don.
Yeah, so I had a second one, which is, we've been talking about DEIB, and I want some sense of how, in this process, we're applying that. And you don't have to answer that tonight, but if at the next meeting, you can kind of go over how you're planning to utilize that.
It will
lens.
definitely be incorporated into the interview questions.
Okay. Is it incorporated into, and I know the job, what you post is generic, basically, you want someone who's living and breathing and And apparently,
Yeah, we have
based on
higher
the
standards
student-
than that,
the-
Mr.
the
Myers.
student- The student feedback, they need to be younger, but it's, they don't go into a lot of detail. They're more generic, and so I don't know that you're incorporating that, but that would also probably include potentially areas where this posting would be placed, so that you're targeting various constituencies that would fit under that umbrella. So if you could just frame that out for us for the next meeting, I would be happy as a cat.
As a cat.
As a
So
dog.
one quick thing, when we had done the Google Portrait of a Principal survey recently. And so when we were looking at it for this go-round, we did go through and we did specifically add the diversity, inclusion, equity, inclusion, and belonging piece to it, as whether it's, and they had to rank factors that they wanted. So you'll see that in there, but
Okay. Just appreciate that, thank
Yeah.
you.
I had one quick question with the holidays in the mix of the posting. Is that a standard time? Is that like the time we normally post? I'm wondering, can we extend that time past the 2nd so that people can get through the holiday season? Or is that like a set number of days that it must be posted in order to get applicants?
well, there's not a set number of days, but I will say that if someone is looking, when they see it come out on the 11th, I feel, if I'm just putting myself in that person's shoes, I would have my packet submitted well before the 25th or whatever holidays some people may celebrate. And so I don't think it's an unreasonable or too short of a time.
Okay.
Yeah. And just one other piece about why, sometimes people think, well, it seems early for doing this. Actually, some of the better candidates tend to be looking now if they're going to make a switch. But also, if we don't have luck, it leaves us a little bit more of a window on the other side to continue this search process before, others are already set with a move that they might be making. So,
Any other questions before we move on? All right, next item, the MMHS course program offerings and December student input survey. This one I'm going to allow Mr. Myers, because I believe this is something somewhat his brainchild here, so I will let you introduce this one, please.
So, we did have a meeting the other day. Unfortunately, we didn't really have a quorum, so it was an informal discussion. We did not really touch on that aspect of the survey, if I recall.
well, may I just share sort of what we shared at the meeting? So we have a student advisory council of students in grades 7 through 12. So there's 2 in each grade level. So we did bring up sort of what does Mashpee Middle High School want to be known as or known for, and then we got into sort of program questions. From the conversation we had with them, we did not feel that a short survey was necessarily going to be productive or give us information. It's kind of a hard thing to capture, but I will share the conversation. Several good points came out of it that do impact sort of the whole program of studies and scheduling. So one of them, we had, and this is a great opportunity for our members here, our students here to share. The group of students we spoke to prefer that we keep all levels in terms of course tiers, so CP, honors, and AP. They think students should have that choice. They gave reasons why you might be in an AP here, but take a CP in another area. They talked about the difference between CP and honors is mostly pacing, and that from their perspective, they like having the choices. How do you feel about that?
I think that is it's genuinely, because I know people who are in a CP course here, but they may be in an honors or an AP level. It really depends. For instance, I am in a honors level English class this year. I could have taken an AP English class, but I decided it wasn't a interest of mine, and I have, if I sat in a CP class, I could not keep myself entertained enough. And I think it's good to have options for the kids who might do a little better in a subject. That might be a core subject, so they might do better in math, so they might want to take an AP math class in senior year, but they don't do well in social studies, so they take a CP level social studies class.
I definitely agree. I also think a big part of honors in CP is that it reflects higher on your GPA. So if we only had CP for some classes, there are some kids that might not do as high on the GPA. And I know a GPA isn't the only thing colleges look at, and it's not the only thing that defines you, but some people will be very upset if their GPA suffers because of that. And another thing about the difference between honors and CP, at least I know in some of my classes, like band and other arts, there's like an extra step. There's song presentation, there's different ways to earn honors points through performance, lessons, and it's all improving your skills outside of the class. And I think it's a very important thing to have. Sadly, we don't have honors band anymore, but it was definitely good when we had it.
So one of the things we talked about, was really improving academic excellence, particularly in the core areas, so math, science, ELA, history, and sciences. And one of the thoughts was limiting the class size to 16 at grade 7 and 8 at the CP level. Correct me if I misstate.
Well, so we don't, okay, so close.
That's why I put it out there.
So two areas that we looked at were in the CP classes, we would like to limit the class size to 16. And in some situations, being able to offer, more than one, sometimes there's only one CP as you go in those core subject areas for grade 10. So those kids sometimes travel together if they're not exploring other levels. So, and sometimes I think being able to give a little bit more one-on-one attention or small group. So we think that we could improve outcomes for students, learners, if we were able to keep our CP classes to a 16 or less. The other area that we'd like to have at 16 is our grade 7 and 8 classes, because I think there's so many adjustments during those grades and, developmental changes, puberty, all of the things that make it challenging to travel those years, that it would be very helpful for long-term outcomes for students if we're able to reduce those class sizes. And so what does it end up potentially meaning is sort of reallocation of teachers to certain areas, and sometimes it could be a larger class size in those upper level classes. But we think that this makes the most sense with the resources that we have to look at those sort of two parameters. And the other piece, or the third piece to what we talked about, was also ensuring that, particularly in those 4 core subject areas, that every teacher has a CP level class. If you're teaching 9 through 12, one teacher should not be teaching all of a particular level. And I think we own all of our students, and we need to make the best experiences for all students. And we think that we have a great teaching staff, but I think that having that experience for all makes for better problem solving together. So that's another piece of what we were talking about. But just to share a few other,
I just had a quick question, because I was unaware that the collapsing of the 3 levels was on the table, I guess.
No, it wasn't. We just brought it up to the kids.
You just were asking to get.
We were asking them, do they see the need for the 3 levels? Because sometimes you think about, in some cases, could CP just pop up to honors, and you just, I was never saying we would get rid of honors or CP. I mean, honors and
or any of the
AP,
levels. Yeah.
but you wonder the potential for more kids to do honors. But I understand listening to them as to what the differences are and why.
I think it was to keep the class sizes smaller. By having all these sections, we were trying to think of ways to lower the class sizes, and that was one thing that came on the table, but it's off.
Well, one other question though, with all those sections, would that allow classes like band, which is currently split, or like chorus, that might also be facing the same challenges, to then not be split and allow students who do opt into courses like that to be able to work together and not be divided? You know what I mean? Because like, then there's one, like, then you can set a schedule with all the various sections
Yeah.
around something that might need to be fixed, like a foreign language, like a band, a chorus, theater arts maybe someday, my dreams.
We had it last year.
We had it last year. We only had like 7 people though. So.
Yeah, the people didn't sign up.
I know.
You did a great performance though at the Coombs.
Oh,
Fight,
yeah,
I must say.
Thank you.
That was
a lot of fun.
that was awesome.
We had a lot of fun with that.
But one of the other things that we talked about was really marketing the honors and AP classes
Yes.
to the students, and maybe potentially doing that through the program of studies day, so that, you know, the teachers are actually presenting what it is to be covered in those classes, so you get some brief snippet of it, and maybe having them do a presentation on it. You know, just from my kind of view of it, then, you know, you got your core areas, which would be really kind of the focus, and where we would want to put our most attention and effort to try to improve that, set some sort of objective and goal as far as how we would measure our success in improving that. And then that brings in really then the question kind of to what you were just raising about the electives and how those will be impacted both in the immediate future and then down the road. You know, we have a lot of different electives, and you know, do we want to continue to do that, or you know, we want drama? Do we want drama and not health services, or vice versa? So those are, I think, more questions that need to be thought about, kind of going forward here. So,
Can I just, oh, go ahead. No, go with, I just wanted to make sure I caught all of the things that we had recommended.
I can say from my experience, what I've noticed in my years is it's kind of it's kind of weird. The smaller classes you have, it seems the less electives that students can take.
right.
But then the bigger the classes, the more electives. So I think we really need to be looking at the trade-off of what people want. Do they want more electives, or do they want smaller classes? As I think the main point of this whole.
Well, I think the
discussion.
challenge is how do you achieve the objective with the core group and still allow maximum opportunity on the electives, and then what are those electives? You know, what is in demand?
But even within the core group, there's opportunities for electives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Science has it.
Like
Science,
science.
social studies has like
English has like public speaking. I think
Yeah.
they offer.
creative writing, poetry, like there's so many different
And they're
electives.
they're all offered, like currently the way it's working is, and it's not a good way in my opinion, is that the program of studies has everything in it. And then kids go into Power School and they schedule themselves, and then based on what is popular or can run is what runs. And so it's spreading those kids out across too many options so that nothing is really.
Yeah.
So I think our goal, or Ms. McSweeney is working with the department heads to narrow the program of studies and the electives to those that are historically the most, you know, sought after and well enrolled, which will then allow the class sizes to go down and kids to get.
I guess, I'll let other people.
No, I'm
chime in
sorry,
first.
I
No, it's
didn't
okay. No, I have just.
So just related to that, we did also talk about the timing of when the program of studies would be completed. Kids would know when what their tentative class schedules would be, and
Yeah, so the
we're trying to
scheduling,
move
yes.
that up. So if you want to expand on that conversation, because you'll do a better job than I do.
So yes, there will be, in the hands of everyone who's not a senior, a schedule for next year. It may not, probably won't have teacher names, but you will know when you leave in June what your schedule is. There are multiple people being trained so that it doesn't fall on a few people, to make sure that that is all completed and ready to go. Summer, the way it's been done has not been ideal and very, very not student focused, because you have those wonderings all summer long. So that is something that will happen this year. Can I just add a couple of things that Mr. Myers didn't speak about? He did talk about having teachers, the staff at MMHS needs to do more marketing of their courses and individual encouragement to take a particular course. And the students that met with us talked about how Ms. McCauley had come into one of their classes towards the end of the prior year and really talked about her course offerings, and that, that personal touch in the description of the class, which is from the person who teaches it versus what's in in black and white in a book, is a big difference. So that is helpful for guiding students. That we also talked about having one-to-one guidance counselor student meetings to discuss academic progress and plan forward, and that it would be like at least one time a semester. So we picture like at the end of semester one, and then as you end, if you're not a senior, but as you get towards the end of that year, having someone who looks and sits down with you for planning your academic path, but also for supporting you with any other needs to take place. Would all of you see that as a valuable practice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a question too? Do any of you know what a MyCap is? That's super important.
You gonna tell us what it is?
Oh, I will, but we were just at another meeting where people were like touting what we do with the MyCap in Mashpee, and I was like, none of the kids I talked to know what it is. So,
Mr. Looney told me.
yeah,
but I forget.
good. It's the My Career and Academic Plan, and so what's supposed to happen with that is in 9th grade, students sit down with their guidance counselors and they map out their 4 years of sort of what they want to do. And then every year they revisit it because it can change, absolutely, but it helps kids see the sort of long game as opposed to, I'm a 9th grader, I can barely get my shoes tied in the morning to get to school. How am I going to think about, senior year, what I need to take? So that if I potentially have an interest in becoming an engineer, like I've always thought I wanted to do that. I know in 9th grade that I have to make sure I get to pre-calc or calc so that I can get into a college to study engineering, because without that, I can't. But in 9th grade, I didn't know that. So anyway, the point is you're planning from 9th grade on so that you get the best opportunity to take the pathways that you want to fulfill your career goals after high school.
And I think that would be a really good idea, because personally, I have no clue how many credits I have.
Oh my goodness.
I have no clue, because we don't get told that.
So you don't meet with your guidance counselors, like they
No.
don't, okay.
You have to schedule a meeting.
Yeah,
That's
schedule.
what
They don't schedule them with you
It's really
on a
hard
regular
to get.
basis already, like,
It's
and
really
you
hard to
guys,
get in there right
do you ever just say, hey, I need to go check in with them and see what's going on? Or do you guys see guidance as more like a mental health type
I can
place?
say this year, I was worried I wasn't gonna graduate because I didn't think I had enough gym credits. So I emailed her in
Okay,
a fit of
Yeah. Panic?
Panic. Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness, do I have enough credits to graduate this year? Luckily, I do. But I was able to get it.
Is that not in Power School somewhere?
No.
Not that I can
It's not like a
see.
cross check. You can
No.
look it's not easy.
You can
but I
check.
feel like
your-
having that personal
Yes,
touch
yes,
is
we-
much,
that
what
is-
what were you saying,
no,
Seth?
You can check your transcript, but I don't think you can easily get
You
that.
can't.
No, you have to go into the
You
program of
ask
studies
guidance.
and see the
Oh, you have to
requirements.
ask guidance.
Oh, yeah.
And then cross-check it with your Power School transcript, which is
Huh.
not easy. But one of the
So
things
we
we
weren't meeting
discovered, I was surprised to hear
Because
that.
that really shocks me, I'm not gonna lie, because
Completely.
that should, especially in high school,
Um,
be something that is happening on at least an annual basis.
So we talked about biannually, twice a year, once a
Yeah,
semester.
no, I mean, I said at least.
Right? But again, that was my understanding, because the MyCap is touted to be sort of in place, which, again, this is all just an opportunity for us to put these things in place
Yes,
and make sure
please.
they're happening. So our intention is to, second semester, ensure that every 9th, 10th, 11th grader is seen by their guidance counselor. And then for the subsequent years.
And
would
it really
be-
is it's also
Oh, sorry,
8.
7,
Yeah,
8.
I mean, but even
just not
seniors
12.
could benefit from
No.
just having that check-in
Yes.
on, like, senioritis is gonna set in another couple months.
Yeah.
And you might need someone to be like, come on, finish line's almost
Well, I
here.
think particularly for seniors, trying to, or communicating, we have a meeting tomorrow, but communicating that, to me, it should be done now for them, because why should you sit in anxiety wondering, Eve wondering if she, do you have enough credits? And
Yeah.
all of our seniors, so.
I think a lot of time of guidance is taken up by college planning for seniors, so it's a lot of.
But that could be at the same
senior
meeting.
thing.
Yes.
Like, that should be
Yeah.
at the same meeting. That
I
should be
agree, but,
here's your GPA, here are your credits, how are your applications going, have you heard
Yeah.
from it? Like, it should be an all-inclusive, I mean, I met with my guidance counselor, I don't even,
Yes.
like, a million
Yeah.
times.
And I didn't seek it
Yeah.
out.
No, it was just,
I got a
got
pass.
you'd get a pass, and you'd go, and you'd be like, okay, here's my pass, I'm gonna go see Mrs. Carroll up in, like,
So
guidance.
it's super
and-
helpful for us to hear from you all that what we think is
You would
happening
value
isn't
it.
necessarily always, and it's not anyone's fault or any judgment on
no.
that,
Yeah.
but this is how we get better.
Yeah, so, I mean, some good things are coming out of the discussion so far.
Good point.
Hopefully Matt will make it to the next
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
And,
Plus I don't get
I don't think we're done yet.
No,
Well, and-
no, this is gonna be a process, I'm sure.
Well, and the last thing that we did note, and I think Mr. Myers talked about it already, was having this program of studies. So we do a program of studies night at the end of January, and really, the bulk of people who attend are the parents of 6th graders who want to know. We don't get an overly high attendance of any other grades, some, but minimal. So the effectiveness of that evening is questionable, but we really want to get to our students. So having something during the day, whether, you set aside, it's a non-academic, we had a vision of stations, we're going to talk to Principal McSweeney about it, so that you go and you actually are given a presentation by the Social Studies Department of what offerings are available and help you understand that. And that goes hand in hand with these guidance counselor meetings so that you can develop your pathway, but we're not, so really what's been happening is, you get the program of studies booklet shared online and, you're looking through it. And last year we did change the process in that students select first and then that, okay, here's what I want. They show it to their parent, the parent signs off, it comes in. The third person who looks at it is the teacher, where before it kind of was teacher saying, oh yeah, Silas should take this class. Well, no, Silas should decide what he's going to take, and if you don't think it's the right fit, you feed that in. So
That's
We're
one
getting there.
good step.
So like teacher recommendations are not gonna be as weighted in this?
No, they
because
are-
I know for a
right.
fact there have been students held back by teacher
Yes.
recommendations that
that's
were
what we
unfairly.
tried to stop. Yeah,
That prompted the
Good.
conversation,
Okay.
that's why, yes.
for sure.
But, for example, last year we gathered all of that and then it just sort of sits. So they should be developing the schedules based
Yeah,
on
and I
that.
could add that too. Mr. Maroney and I are working on scheduling a Power School scheduling training for 2 days off-site, probably at the Mashpee Library, for every assistant principal and dean, along with director of counseling, me, anyone else, so that more people know how to schedule, and it's not just Mrs. Kett, who works really hard, but shouldn't have that burden on her. By training people in either the last week in December or in early January, we will be able to split the load a little bit more in terms of scheduling, which will then allow kids to walk out in June with their schedule without teachers' names on. So we are putting, we recognized the problem probably last year and are now starting to put things in place
Just didn't
to.
get all the pieces last year.
No, we didn't know all the pieces. That came to light a little later, so.
Well, touching on scheduling, I just did want to bring up, because we've been talking about this a lot during our meetings, of the band numbers are absolutely horrendous right now. Mr. T, if he was sitting here, would go on for hours about it. About once a week, we get a full-on rant about it. But coming from someone, just also gender equality in the class. I'm one of 2 girls in a band class, and I love all of the boys in my class, but they're chaotic. Because they're teenage boys and they like to make noise. and it's just in general, it's very, very, very difficult.
It's difficult to practice music too.
Exactly.
Yes.
To practice music,
Plus you
we
have
a very,
strings and guitar and
Yeah.
band in
And
one
band.
room.
Believe
We
me, I get an earful at a football game from this. Like I understand as a band person myself. Like I get.
we have my class is a very dominated horn class, and it's coming to the point where it's hard to just do our pieces. Like McKay and I, my cousin, were singing this song for this the winter concert, and it's going to come to the point where we have to do an after school rehearsal because we don't have we don't know what everyone's going to be doing. We don't know what's happening. And so it's incredibly frustrating to trying to learn this music, and Mr. T's going, okay, Andrew's playing here, but Andrew's not in our class, so just be silent, Mr. Masters. And then it's just hard.
And that's probably just one example. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
other examples that you all could probably share, whether it's band, whether it's even, I'm thinking foreign languages too, where there's only so far you can go in certain level. Like,
I can say that I'm in AP Mandarin now, but last year we were worried that we weren't going to be able to have our Mandarin class next year because we were like, we don't know if we'll have enough people. And it was kind of like we were trying to figure out if we could like schedule it with another class, but I was just trying to give an example of other instances of that happening.
I'm just asking, I don't even know if this, if we could would you like to see the band chorus scheduling adjusted for this year if we were able to do that?
I think we're all kind of have our classes
Two other
this
ones,
year.
too much of a domino.
Yeah, it would just be like a collapse. I mean, right now the chorus class is still a little bit easier. Coming from someone in both. But it's especially like in middle school, it's hard because you're supposed to choose.
Yeah.
Which I am in 11th grade. I stopped chorus in 6th grade because I was trying to focus on my instrument. And so we don't have time. And now just going back into chorus and it's completely different also because we have a new teacher. But it's trying to wrap my head around like all of the chaos. And it's a lot easier to adapt as singers than as instrument players because you're constantly hearing new sounds. It's the same in chorus, but it's different in band. So
some of that, speaking, I think that's a common thing for a lot of people going into high school is having to pick one over the other, unfortunately. But I think part of that too is kind of learning, one of those life lessons of having to make those hard decisions in a sense. Because I know I picked band because we were going to Disney World my freshman year, and I was like, I'm going to Disney World. I didn't pick chorus.
And Mr. T and I met last week or the week before, I think, to talk about that. I think he knows I'm a musician, so
yeah.
He'll
go on for hours.
But no, it's great, and the fact that I have a kid in band, and I didn't know that strings, guitar, and band they were all together. So it's already on my radar in terms of next year, but it shouldn't just be that. I think we need a better system.
No. I think that's just one.
No, I'm just saying
that is one concrete example.
I should not only know this because Mr. T reached out to me or because Eve just said what she said.
Yeah.
There needs to be a better system and checks and balances in place so that the classes that are running optimally. And so, again, me with my systems, I always want to go back to creating something that, if none of us are here, still works effectively. So that's the goal and the plan.
Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Very helpful conversation.
Thank you for the conversation, Dawn and Superintendent DeBoer. Appreciate it. Looking forward to hearing how future conversations go. All right, moving on to the FY25 budget and summary for Mashpee Enterprise. So I believe in our packets we do have the summary, and we're also going to be discussing an additional item that was discussed at the Finance Working Group this morning that will be part of the FY25 budget, possibly.
Yes, so the summary that is going to appear in the Mashpee Enterprise. I believe it's like the 21st, 2nd? It's like the Friday right before, the Friday we go for break. The format, so you see it in your packet, the format is the same that we have always done. You also have in your packet the FY25 sort of summary budget that is reflected in this newspaper summary. And we have also the budget narrative not included in the packet tonight. These two documents reflect a change that we discussed this morning that I'm going to talk about. The narrative will have to be updated moving forward. So as a handout tonight, you have a memo from me with a job description behind it. And what we are, so I'm just going to read the memo. Attached, please find a draft job description for a new part-time position that I'm proposing as a pilot for FY25. The position of data analyst, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging will allow us to engage in the in-depth collection and analysis of academic and other relevant data in order to measure and track progress towards the goals in Mashpee's plan for success, and to inform necessary next steps. I'm requesting an additional $50,000 be added to our FY25 proposed budget to cover the cost of this position. This results in an FY25 proposed budget request of $25,484,353 to be appropriated by the town of Mashpee, which is a 4.19% increase over the FY24 budget and a 0.20% increase to the FY25 proposed budget that was previously submitted to the town of Mashpee on September 26, 2023. So behind is the job description draft, but we are proposing this as a pilot. The individual would work 2 days a week for, full-time in terms of the 52 weeks. And so the objective of the position is to support the district's goal of honoring diversity, providing equity, and ensuring inclusion throughout the schools, our schools. Also, the objective is to generate, interpret, and share reports, presentations, and surveys that support the district's ability to measure and track progress towards the goals in Mashpee's plan for success, all four of the pillars in the plan for success. The objective is to collect, analyze, and translate academic and other relevant data to ensure its content and implications are accessible by all stakeholders, and to make recommendations for next steps to the district-based leadership team. So in the job description, we have duties and responsibilities, include but are not limited to. So the individual identifies growth areas relative to the goals in Mashpee's plan for success. They engage with diverse audience regarding the analysis of data and clearly articulate complex terms and concepts. They assist in developing and coordinate, he or she or they, assist in developing and coordinating assessments and surveys in close collaboration with the DBLT, which is our district-based leadership team, analyzing, communicating results, and compiling the data for reports. They would effectively share analysis of data through presentations, reports, and other documents. They will conduct research and review historical data in order to analyze data trends. And based on the analysis of data, they will make recommendations for systemic changes if warranted. As qualifications, we're looking for someone who has a master's degree or higher, a minimum of 5 years leadership experience in a public school setting, has high proficiency using Google-based products and with data visualization and analytical tools, has a proven track record with strong and clear written and oral communication, analytical skills, data collection, data visualization, and project management skills, a high level of attention to detail and accuracy, and the ability to routinely manage and interpret large data sets. We're looking for someone with experience and or education in DEIB, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, best practices in those areas in an educational setting, the ability to lead effectively while being a team player, someone with strong interpersonal skills, self-motivated, and a demonstrated ability to multitask and work independently while collaborating effectively with all stakeholders, the DBLT, staff, students, families, community. Strong presentation skills and initiative ability to explain complex problems to various audiences and to actively collaborate on next steps and solutions. The person should have the ability to think critically when evaluating, analyzing, and reporting data, and to make sound decisions, and to demonstrate a high degree of trustworthiness in handling confidential and sensitive information. The individual should have the ability to strategically maintain financial and budgetary information and prioritize and manage time effectively. Should be a strong problem solver and data-driven decision maker, and should be culturally responsive in their mindset and practice. The position would report to myself and the assistant superintendent. Like I said earlier, we're looking at someone who would be 2 days a week. And we feel that while we do a good job of looking at multiple sources of data, in order to really move forward with all of the goals on our plan for success, and to affect some of the changes that we're hoping to see in terms of student access and opportunity, that this position would be timely. As I said, we would do it as a pilot to see how the results that are able to be produced in terms of the individual's output and the impact it has on our decision making. And I'd be happy to answer questions.
I have a few.
Yes.
It's okay. Superintendent DeBoer. I guess first question, recognizing the knowledge that we have from, I guess statistics and the presentations at the MASC. I think the call in a lot of districts was for at least a full-time person, if not multiple individuals doing this very important data work. Is there a reason, or what was the rationale behind this being more of a part-time position rather than a full-time position?
So there is the potential of there being a current resource within the district that has the capacity to do some full-time work leading up to the early fall, which is when this position, so basically there is a resource potentially on staff who would do the bulk of data work that would serve as a foundation moving forward. So with that larger piece done, I believe that we would be able to obtain the analysis we're looking for with someone who's 2 days a week. That was very convoluted conversation.
The other piece of it, I believe, too, is that we've already submitted our request for our budget, so this would require an increase in that request. So part-time, what we discussed this morning was having it be a pilot program with a part-time position to build that foundation into possibly the multiple, the full-time, if not multiple full-time. This allows it to kind of ease in a sense, to that, budgetarily speaking. I don't know if that answers it any better.
Oh, it does. That's an honest answer to the question. And sorry, Don, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, the other part of it is until we really define what the objectives are, this gives us a way to ease into the process and really define what is necessary, what is.
Yeah.
And so if we find out, as Kathy's saying, we need to change this, we'll have an opportunity to do that in the next cycle. But at least this gets us started and moving in the right direction.
Okay. So to piggyback off that, maybe a few more questions as it relates to this overall and specifically maybe job function. So when I hear pilot, oftentimes, like what are the metrics or how are we understanding success if we're trying to then take that information and move it forward to, create a case for integrating this or not integrating it into something more than a pilot? So do we have a sense on what those parameters would be or milestones or metrics?
That was, yeah, I mean, the discussion this morning was, seeing increase, we were at the same conference you referenced at the start of your comments, and I was looking to see increased student performance from this, taking that data to see where we bolster certain things with that DEIB lens, making sure that everything is more level, and then the conversation again, it might need to be more refined in terms of its objectives. But that was,
I mean, you have to realize that this is a position, in essence, that starts July 1st. So
Yes.
that leaves 6 months for us to really work on setting the objectives and defining what we want to accomplish and what's successful look like, to answer your question.
Okay.
This is coming together really in the last couple of days. So.
Which is lovely to see because I think it's in a lot of ways a long time coming, right, to be able to support this really important work for the district. Is it okay if I have one more question?
yes, please.
All right, thank you for giving me the grace. Qualifications, the line that specifies experience or education, DEIB, I know that it seems like we have a prospective internal resource, but what exactly does that mean? How do we weigh that? What are we looking for when we discuss experience with someone who's mindful of DEIB work and best practices?
Well, to me, for anyone in this position, whether it's someone currently or someone down the future, they need to have that background in an educational setting, particularly looking at diversity, inclusion, and equity, knowing what it looks like or what practices we should see in a classroom, how that translates to student performance. And, we had a meeting this afternoon in terms of the new teacher rubric, and there was some of the conversation with the association shows that there needs to be the leadership in this area to influence what goes on in those classrooms. And not that someone coming from because many companies and corporations are very focused on this now. But I think in terms of the ability to influence staff, the credibility factor, would need to have been someone that has that experience in this setting, in practices, best practices.
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to point out too, and I know with the conferences we go to, we are a relatively small district in terms of our enrollment compared to sometimes we hear presentations from other districts that have, 15,000 students or even 5,000 students compared to our roughly close to 1,500. So the part-time basis, I think, is manageable. Our data is just a little bit easier to.
No, that makes sense. I guess I'm just looking at the bigger picture. Even though we are a smaller district, there are more homogeneous districts that don't have quite the level of diversity that we do, that have allocated resources to this or other DEIB projects. So just trying to vocalize, weighing out, what that means for us, and it seems like we're making some really mindful decisions as it relates to that.
Anything you want to add to that?
All good.
Any input from the students? I mean, are you guys feeling DEIB is incorporated into your day-to-day? And keeping in mind DEIB, a lot of times people go right to one piece of it, but you mentioned gender in one class, is like keeping that lens all encompassing. Are you feeling that you're seeing things, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I've seen, of course, I think we were talking about at the last meeting, gender equality in clubs, but that's more, I think, signing up in honor societies. I believe for what I've seen, a lot of the honor societies are female-based. And I know that's from lack, it's stereotypes that guys don't have the brains to be in honor societies, which I know plenty do. They just choose not to sign up for them. But I think a lot of the clubs and from what I know, what I've seen, like all classes and clubs are pretty accepting, or they try to be of everyone.
In my classes, I take a lot of AP and honors classes, and I see the same people every day, like every year. And I'm not saying that's a problem with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think a lot of the people in those classes are diverse. I just think there is some level of, if you're taking a math track or an environmental track, you're going to see the same people throughout the years. And I think some of that's unavoidable. I don't know if that answers any question related to this. I just wanted to voice my experience.
No, I think it's helpful. Anything you guys want to add? All right. Well, so I guess our next step, I mean, Ashley's gonna, like Ashley and and Mrs. DeBoer are gonna put together, like the revised budget, right, for the town, correct? And our next step
Yes, so
is-
these documents do reflect
They do.
the change, the additional 50,000. So I will be updating the narrative, and we have our budget meeting with the town manager on the 12th. Prior to the 12th, I will communicate this change to him and make sure he has the documents, so that there's no surprises there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, the school year 24-25 calendar. We are going to vote on this. It is our second time seeing this. So tonight, I believe just the committee, the students do not vote, but we would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe the seniors might have thoughts, but I'm gonna look to the juniors because this will be your calendar for next year. So if you have comments on this calendar, please feel free to share them. But this is what we looked at last time. I don't think there were too many changes other than we were talking about that last day of school with the snow day versus no snow day. I believe that was the only thing we were kind of discussing, correct? That was, yeah. So,
Thank you.
It's pretty well, I mean, we just talked about last time, it's a pretty standard version of our annual contract.
And it also was shared
I mean,
with the
calendar.
MTA as well, right?
Yes, the MTA,
and they were okay with this?
Yeah. yes.
Looks like the first day would be the 28th of August. And with no snow, you're out on the 16th. But if there are some snow days, it could go as late as the 24th.
You know how Mrs. DeBoer loves to call snow day. JK.
Well, yes, well.
The half days remain on the Mondays.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, ideally, this gives us 2 snow days.
Yes.
Noted.
I think the seniors are, the ones who will be seniors are like, yes, please, because.
That's
Yeah.
what my mom, she's like, oh, we got the calendar. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I'm not going to be there. And that's when reality set in. It was like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, Mom, I don't like this.
So any thoughts on the calendar before we entertain a motion to approve it? Anything you guys can see that's glaring that you say, wait a minute, there's a new holiday that we don't know about? I don't know.
I believe there's election next year, but it's not in the schools.
That's true.
This is very true.
Uh-huh.
And we'll see, well, any
Presidential.
students who are 18 or older at the time of the election, they're allowed to, well, they could vote after school, I suppose, now, by the way. That'd be a kind of cool field trip. though,
I was
I'm
gonna
not lie.
say,
It might be, yeah, it might be.
It'd be pretty cool
I
field
feel like we
trip.
need to make that happen, so, but there's 3 precincts now, so we're gonna have to have 3 different buses.
That is not cool.
Just a curious question, in June, the early release on the 9th, usually that's the first Monday, the first Monday is the second. Was there a reason why we were doing it a week later?
It was probably because of the last week in May being a 4-day week, and then leading into graduation, so we wanted to have 1 full week. Like, we're aware of shortened weeks, and we don't necessarily like to have multiples in a row like that.
But the seniors, when do the seniors get done?
They're probably done around looking at this, I'm thinking either the 23rd. No, probably even the,
I mean,
23rd?
They're done by the 30th, let's just.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're
Let's
out.
just-
They're out.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so they're done by the 30th, so really we're just talking the rest of.
Grades 7 through 11.
Well, the rest
Well,
of the schools,
Okay, pre-K.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, he's talking high school, but yes, the rest of the school.
the rest of the school,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I guess I still wonder,
It's also when they take bio MCAS that first week in June. And so from my perspective, I'd rather have a full day on Monday where the kids can get the prep.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Thank you.
I'll accept that.
We found one he'll accept.
I know, was anyone record? Oh, Hunter's recording that. I'm gonna need that, see that tape.
All right, so, hearing no other, anybody else have any comments before I entertain a motion to approve?
I have just
Yes.
a question on like the, not the syntax, but, did you put after Juneteenth, it doesn't say no school, but I'm assuming if there would be school that week, we wouldn't have school that day? Correct.
Yeah, so that's why, oh yeah, we could add that no school. Yes, thank you. That's a good point.
That's
Yeah.
That's why I noted that there would be opportunity for two
Yes.
snow days, so that we would be done for
But for,
Juneteenth and then that Friday.
but for continuity's sake, all the other holidays, it says. no.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll definitely put that on
Good
there.
catch with your
I
very
know.
detailed eye. Good job.
Thank you.
Since we have the students here, I do have one question I'd like to kind of get their feedback. So we have a long break at Christmas. You go a month and basically a month and a half, then you get a long break in February. Then you go until April, you get a long break, and then you basically have about 6 weeks after that. Do you feel that having all those breaks is essential?
Be honest, be
That needs to be
honest,
worded
be
differently.
honest.
Or if there was an opportunity to get done sooner, would you rather be done sooner?
Personally,
That's not what I'm asking.
I will be done sooner. I mean, honestly, being in the school for a long time, the 16th is not the worst day to get out, even like as I will be graduating, or hopefully, but
As long as you have
So
gym.
you have
it's all literally I need to
Love
get
the credits.
but I remember getting out like the 20th, the 23rd, in previous years before we went before Labor Day.
Yeah.
So I believe that, like, coming from someone who is a teacher's daughter, my mom needs school breaks
Okay,
to keep
that's
her
fair.
sane.
I
Don't
saw
tell her I
some
said
reactions
that.
over here though. Do you want to weigh in on vacations and if there are things
What do
that?
you think? What's this group think?
I like them.
You like it? We wish there were more, I know that, right? Okay, just curious.
One thing that I can say is that I know a lot of teachers schedule around them, like they'll try to have one unit done before that, and it kind of gives like a break in between like different topics that might be very differently connected. So I think that they're important just for reference points, and just sometimes students really need a break.
Okay. I always wondered about that, because I came from a school that got out earlier in June, so,
But only had the March break.
yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't have all of those breaks.
My nieces in Chicago have it that way as well.
Yeah,
I also think there's a disinfectant in February break.
Vacation.
That's super important because everybody's just gross at that point with colds and COVID and flu. But
Also, as a skier, I'm partial for February break.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
okay.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the school year 24-25 calendar as presented.
So moved.
All right, thank you, Dawn. You need a second?
Yes.
Second. Thank you, Matt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
I also am a yes. All right, kids, we'll see you on the 28th. Okay, next. We discussed this at our November 15th meeting, the food service function pay. Basically, this was a request submitted by our food service director in conjunction with our director of finance. Ashley, do you want to talk a little on this one, please?
Sure. So since our November 15th meeting, we've changed it from 2 times their regular rate to 1.5 their regular rate for function pay, which is outside of their normal course of work. Things such as like the pasta dinner here at Quashnet, or if there are activities such as lunches during the summer that get put on. really to entice our employees that do so much work for us every day, while feeding the students and the staff here, to just give them a little extra. This doesn't include any of the PDs or trainings they come in on off hours. It's strictly just for functions. Behind that, it was requested to bring the proposed rate increases for FY '24. So that's the second page that you have at your table or your seat.
And this is this would be retroactive?
Yes, it's the beginning of September.
So you just want to talk about how this would affect the budget, if so?
There's no impact to the general fund. It all sits in the revolving fund. With it being universal free meals, we do get additional money from the state to support our program. With that, we know that we'll be able to absorb this additional payment. Right now, the retro payment's approximately $20,000.
And the reason you're requesting this is?
I think that this reflects a living wage for our food service employees. It's also very similar to what we've done with our other units. When we were in the Unit C negotiations with paraprofessionals, it was very important to us to bring that wage up to $20 an hour. And we were able to do that for them, and we are asking for the same here for the food service workers.
And currently we have how many openings?
At least 4
Openings? And that's across all schools?
Yeah, that's the bare minimum. So we've been a person down at both of our elementary schools all year. And we have 2 people down to have a complete program. The food service director and assistant director are going to be adding more personnel, hopefully. But right now, bare minimum, we're down 4.
So this, in theory, should make us more competitive in the job market. Maybe give those people who are going to Stop and Shop for $18 an hour something to consider, to come work for the school with our lovely kids for $20 an hour. So,
And to piggyback off that, there are other food industries, where our current pay is lacking, and that doesn't include the fact that they have the ability to absorb tips as part of that. So, what does entice folks to come to a school system to do this work? I would firmly agree that we should move in a direction to increase the pay to be more marketable.
Just out of curiosity, so you said we have 4 openings, but how many cook helpers do we have the number, like how many do we currently have and how many lead cooks do we currently have?
We have 1 lead cook at each building, so there's 3. And we have, I believe it's 6.
Across all 3 schools?
Across all 3 schools.
and we should have 10, right?
Yep. So we have 7, sorry.
7 currently with 4 additional openings, right?
Mm-hmm. Those additional openings would all be at the cook helper.
Okay. Does the student advisory committee have any questions on this, Andrew?
Sorry,
That's okay.
I just would like to say, we know they're very important, but I would like to say there are what seem like stampedes to get to the lunch line sometimes. So there are many, many people who need these services, and I think that the pay increase would reflect the effort that they put in to make really good lunches and a good selection and variety of lunches every day.
Anybody else wants to add to that? I do have a quick question, slightly tangential about this, but are you finding that lunches get held, like when you go up, if you have first lunch, are they saying, oh no, we've got to save some for third lunch? Have you seen that happen? No?
They always have more than enough food. Yeah,
Okay, I was
sometimes
just
they
curious.
do run out, but they always have options.
And also other times they give away food, if it's going to be
Okay.
before break
Just
or on
curious.
the weekend. It's
Yeah.
hit or miss.
Jerry comes out with her cart and
Yeah.
hands
Oh, yeah.
Especially
I've
third
heard about
lunch.
that,
Oh my God. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe at the next meeting, we can devote just a section to the lunch program.
I would like that. Can that be a thing? Yeah, I think so.
For the next one with them.
No, with,
Yeah,
oh,
yes, with them.
Because I was going to ask if we can do that at the next one. I also want to add our Cape Kid Meals Pantry program that is up and running at the middle high school for the next meeting as well, so that they can share with their friends the opportunities for the ability to take food home from Cape Kid Meals at the middle high school. So
Oh, that's good.
yeah, it's exciting.
Good items.
All right, love it. Agenda item requests. All right, so that being said, I'll entertain a motion to increase.
So I'll make a motion to increase the FY '24 salary rates for cook helper and lead cook per the schedule retroactive to July 1st.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
I also am a yes. Thank you to our food service employees, and hopefully our new director and assistant director will be able to get some people in to those
And maybe
positions.
maybe they'd be able to attend when we have
I think that'd be
this
great.
conversation.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay,
Do you have to
next.
separately vote on the function, or is that all inclusive? I just want to make sure.
Well, that was the increase, was it not?
It's kind of hand in hand. The function pay was the 1.5 times. We didn't have that prior to
Oh,
this
but the rate,
request.
you want us to vote on the rates as well?
Yes, so you did the
Okay.
rates, but the,
Yeah, we should do
Okay,
that
yep.
separately. So I'll make a motion that we approve the request to increase effective now, I guess, for food service employee compensation for those who work outside their designated hours, not including training or PD. That rate would be 1.5 times their regular rate, based upon what we just approved.
Thank you, Dawn.
Does that cover it?
I will second
All
that.
right, and who's going to take the second?
You can take it, yeah.
Dan's got the second? Okay, thank you, Dan. All right, any further discussion?
Take it.
Dan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I also am a yes. Okay. Up next, we have the annual 8th grade DC, I still call them the DC Travelers, because that's what we were. 8th grade trip to Washington, DC, scheduled for June 9th through June 12th. So it looks like we have the packet here with all of with the itinerary. We're going with a different company this time, or?
No, we are going with last year's company. We did check with another company that was significantly more per student. And so this is the same company. I believe it's $9.98 student. We do have hopefully a student meeting for tomorrow and an upcoming parent meeting. We will be doing a raffle where as in the past prior to pre-COVID, students will be selling raffle tickets. The winning prize is $1,000. Each ticket, students will be minimally expected to sell 10 tickets, $5, and they're $10 a piece. $5 from every ticket sold goes back to that student to offset their cost. The other $5 goes towards the $1,000 we need to give away. Anything we raise above the $1,000 will still be tied to each student and will continue to be to help reduce their trip. So there is an incentive to sell more because you'll directly impact your own cost.
Thank you for that change.
Yes.
No, I honestly, thank you for that change. It makes it much more equitable, so
Well,
thank
we
you.
decided to go with sort of the $1,000 prize. Years prior to COVID, it was always a TV, but
Yeah, it was.
that's like,
Yeah.
I think people
Back in
prefer cash.
1994, we were selling raffle tickets for one of those giant TVs.
Yes.
Two-person list.
Yeah, basically.
And we did do a survey of families prior to sort of, well, we had to commit to the buses. And so we do have about 80 students, and I'm sure that will probably grow a little bit with
And how many kids again?
80, out of the class?
Yeah, it's what, 194?
kids?
Oh, that's a good one.
100, no, 194.
No, 90.
94.
Oh, out of 94.
But
like it might
80
have
of the
been a little
94
higher than
committed to,
Well,
118 kids in grade 8, yeah.
So 94 have expressed.
No,
84 have
No,
expressed.
just 80.
80
80
out of 118.
have expressed.
And when we meet with students and the parents, there is the same expectation for academic and behavioral standards in terms of being qualifying to go on the trip as well as when you're on the trip. But also attendance will roll into that as well. And we basically looked at what the Department of Education considers chronic absenteeism. So we'll be looking at that. And obviously there's reasons you might be out, but generally if you don't have an excused absence, that could impact your ability to go on the trip as well.
Anybody else have any questions before we ask mine?
I have one, but go ahead.
Okay. I know one comment I got last year from a couple people was the Native American Museum. They didn't feel they had enough time in that one. And where Mashpee has the tribe as part of our community, I don't know if that's, like I was just kind of skimming to see, and
I believe it's on the first day.
We had made that change for the 9th grade trip after the feedback we received from the 8th grade trip. And so on that first day, on the 9th grade trip when we went down last year, we allocated I think 2-hour window to that museum, or 90 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it here on this particular itinerary, that's why I asked.
They do tailor the itinerary for us once
Okay.
everything is up and running. So this just may have been, this looks like it's an older document
Okay.
from November. So we've been working with a company that's been,
No, that's the Museum of American History. There's one that's
Sunday.
Native American
Oh,
specific.
yeah.
Yeah, American History is the one that
Yeah,
has all
so
the cool.
Sunday the night.
yeah, it should be Sunday.
It's
Yep,
in the
it's right
big,
there.
big block.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. Thank you. Okay. I know now that the pandas are gone, like the one in the zoo.
So sad.
Don, your question?
So this kind of relates back to our earlier conversation about EIB and how we can apply the lens to this trip and to the students. Because right now you're looking at roughly 67% participation. And I think at least last year, my understanding was it was less than that. And I know there's a number of different reasons why people might not be interested at this point, but I guess I'm trying to understand how we can apply that lens that we want to do to something like this, to incentivize as many kids to participate in this.
So I think for me, when you look at those who have said, yes, we're interested, what you do is you look at those who have not responded or said no and have that personal conversation as to the why behind it. Because sometimes there could be a reason that we can't affect, but if it's financial, or like some people wrote, they're concerned with who their child would room with. So we can alleviate, those concerns. But it is that sort of follow-up in a one-to-one conversation. It's similar to, and not related to this, but sometimes when the yearbook is done, they do their half pages. And so there was one particular year when, a parent was concerned because their child wasn't in their half page. And so what the new practice is after all of that is, you tell the seniors, you do all you can, the advisor reaches out to each family to make sure they were aware of it and what's the background, do you want it or not. So it's similar here. To me, there's a small number at this point that have either not responded to the Google survey or said no, they would get a conversation so we know what's going on. And we will be able to support them. I know last year, particularly when you look at our Native American students, the Indian Education Grant was able to provide some supports for, I think it was 6 students. So
I would just like in the future for us to incorporate some sort of document that reflects those additional things.
well, if you, it is in the presentations that we're going to be doing and in the communications to those parents.
Was it also in the initial, reach out to say who's interested?
Yes, I believe it said that if you had questions or if there were, you anticipate, there was a narrative at the beginning, but at the bottom where you could, optional question was any other concerns or questions you had.
I'm just thinking that our form needs to kind of reflect some of that, so that we, as a committee, can say, yes, this is what we're doing.
Oh, your permission slip.
So we could have a section at the bottom that sort of
I don't know.
emphasizes our practice. So it could be that, you know,
Or-
yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
That, I didn't know what you were asking, but that is
That's what I'm
different,
trying to
okay.
That's a good idea.
From the Google form that went home to
Yeah,
parents,
no.
okay.
I think it needs to be very clearly stated on both.
And it was, I think, on the Google form, but
because
what,
I'm thinking that we should be doing that for all field trips.
Yeah, we'll add it to the field trip.
And so we
Yeah.
need to kind of develop what that looks like. And, you know, this is a big one that gets a lot of focus. I know there's other requests that come down, and so I would like if we could develop that sort of attachment that can come with the request, so that, you know, it demonstrates to the committee that we are practicing what we preach. Okay?
Just to
Great
clarify,
suggestion.
when you say an attachment, is it not correct to capture verbiage at the bottom or at the top of the form that clearly says this is our mindset? Or no?
You can leave this the way it is. There was another page that had exactly what you're talking about.
just a statement? Because I was thinking if it had 4 boxes of our portrait of a, not portrait of a graduate, our plan for success pillars, and how does this field trip align to our pillars, one of which, pillar 2, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. I feel like that is really what you need to see, is how is what
How are
you're
we making
asking
this an
for
equitable, yes.
equitable and aligned with the
Yes,
goals
yes.
of the district.
Right, it's just
So-
changing that line instead of state and local curriculum standards and maybe just
Right.
tailoring it to Mashpee's.
Plan for success.
Right, but not just check the.
No,
box.
how?
What you're doing. And
Yes.
so I would ask if you could just do a draft of that for this, and then, you know, because I will vote to approve this contingent upon that being submitted subsequently.
It's a very strong statement, Tom.
I know. Especially good.
We can definitely provide that to you.
But, I mean, does that make sense?
Well, it makes a lot of sense, because I think it comes back down to the original conversation we had a few meetings ago, where we talked about every decision being made through that equity lens, and asking the specific question, how does this affect our communities of color and marginalized populations, right? And I feel like every decision that is made across the district and at this table, that should be a consideration. So what I'm hearing from Superintendent DeBoer and from Dr. Hanscom is that that's built in, but I agree with you. I'd like to see what that looks like in some capacity.
Yeah. I know implicitly we're doing it.
Yep.
You're looking for
I-
transparency.
I'm looking for a more explicit.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And I'm behind you on that. Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know exactly what that looks like, so I'm gonna let you come back
I like
to
Hope's
us.
idea. Personally, that sounded like it would be very clear cut of, you know, in this bucket, we're hitting this, 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 and this. In this bucket, we're doing this, 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 and this, which meet that stand, you know, like, to me, that would be clear.
Yeah, and it's just the backside of the sheet.
Yeah,
you know,
and
so-
then that would include, like, for under pillar 2 with
Yes.
DEIB, you're gonna include this raffle, which I'm kind of thinking, like, should it be $20 a ticket so each kid gets $10 and make it a $2,000 prize? But that's just me.
I wish we had a raffle last year, is all I'm saying.
But I personally would like to see that.
Yes.
Before it's
Yes.
prime time.
But before it's prime time, with the view of incorporating that into all future.
Yes.
Yes, so we're gonna
Field requests.
update this form this
Yeah.
week. And what I like about the idea is that in most cases, it's a teacher putting in for field trips, whether it's an environmental club, and it brings the plan for success more into their daily world on a regular basis, because they will have to, you know, we can attach it so they can refresh themselves on it, but it brings that plan for success down to sort of the worker bee level more frequently.
And they can then communicate whether it's to their history class who's proposing, and it brings it even to your level as students, because if your club is proposing a field trip, if your class is looking for a field trip, you might be able to say, okay, well, how are we hitting this as students? You know, it's even going deeper, I think. So,
Well, and it's making me, I see quite a few fundraiser forms come across my desk. I think we're going to integrate it
Yes,
onto that form as well.
I love that.
I think that's a lovely idea, because I know you and I had a discussion about
Yes, we
one
did.
particular fundraiser where I questioned the equity and inclusiveness of it. But yes, I agree. So are you proposing we hold on a vote for this, or your
No,
vote contingent upon?
So my motion is we approve this request contingent upon the subsequent presentation and acceptance by the school committee of a DEIB
Reframe it? Focus?
I don't know what to call it. Demonstration that this complies with our DEIB objectives per our pillars of success. How's that?
Very good.
So we have a motion on the table. We have a motion. Does anyone wish to second it?
I think I tracked it and I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion? You guys can discuss too, it's not just us. We vote, but you have discussion. All right, hearing none. Dan?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I also am a yes. Everyone should go to DC once at least.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
Pretty awesome. That's all. Yeah. So, what, yeah, did any of you guys get to go? I know you guys were talking about
The
not getting
current
to go.
seniors didn't.
Wah, wah. I still laugh about the stuff that happened today. We had a lot of fun.
I hope it was a valuable learning experience.
I'm connected to the pillars of success.
Yes. All right, that being said, thank you all. We're going to adjourn the joint meeting. So thank you all for your time and for being here. We appreciate your input, and hopefully this is getting a little bit less like, you're getting a little bit more in tune with what we're doing together. So keep doing the work. And again, if you have questions about any of it, you know, yes, Andrew's the chair, but if you have questions and you want to talk, you know, either go through Andrew or you can email any one of the five of us. Brian's not here, but I know he would also welcome any of your emails as well. So please don't hesitate if you have questions as you keep doing the work you're doing at the school. All right? So.
And for some reason, I feel like the meetings are better when you're here.
Oh, gosh, so much.
More enjoyable,
I love all
more
you.
enjoyable, I should say.
But like, come
What are
on.
you saying?
I get to look at Mary
I
Silas and
love
Paige.
listening to them. I love listening to them.
It's sort of,
Not that I don't love listening to them.
no, I was
as
gonna
well.
say, the best part of the job is when I get to go into the buildings. The best part of school committee meetings is getting to.
I won't
hear from
lie. I think they were smart to make this a mass general law that we have to have you here. So I'm very happy for it. So.
And I just want to say, like, Kathy was pushing for it for a long time before you guys got to like have this type of venue, and it's like just seeing the pieces of the puzzle that we were missing before, and like just today, you know, some of the things about like guidance interviews and like, you know, the MyCap and like, you know, understanding your process of like how you're going to progress in your high school career. So like, yeah, I'm like super excited to hear all this.
And then,
I agree, the communication I do think is very important. Sorry if I
no, it's
interrupted.
okay. No, I was just gonna say, and then when you guys start bridging to this school and to the Coombs school, I think.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. We're getting there, but.
And
Yeah.
that'll be a hurdle in itself because of the like age difference and like, you know, focuses.
I think
at
I'd
the
be
time.
too scary.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
We're
you're
interested in. So,
You
like,
can start by reading them a book.
Yeah.
One-on-one.
You know what,
and
all you
get
have
know
to do, because I was down there last year, is ask if they have, if they want to see a picture of your pet, and then they fall in love with you, and that is the trick. So.
I can tell you they're gonna be, you reffed my soccer game, you did this. Nine times they get, you Mrs. Mayon's daughter?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
You don't get that you're Mr. Mayon's daughter?
No, that's.
Yeah, they don't know.
Not the
kids,
employees.
not the
I
kids.
was gonna say, do any,
He gets
many
to be a
people
little
run
more
into the
That's
incognito.
right.
Yeah.
Do you guys know how you're getting out?
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
probably two of them.
I
All right.
just making sure.
Well, again, thank you all so much. The joint
you.
meeting is adjourned at 7:23, but the school committee, we are still in session, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn open session and move into executive session.